I was just watching Reason TV and I heard something said that was rather stupid.
Well, that's why you shouldn't talk to yourself.
Low blow, bro. Low blow.
Thank you!
Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Debunked on the Internet, the show where we get debunked and watch it back.
So remember back when I debunked Rucker Reacts for his misinformation on the Israel-Palestine conflict? Just to summarize, he said that every single Palestinian wants to eliminate Israel because they just do, just because they're like that, and mocked the idea of blowback, particularly as it applied to 9/11, a concept which, I remind you, is supported by the top minds at the CIA, including the then head of the CIA's Bin Laden unit. I linked to sources both supporting the concept of blowback and also all of the information in How to Argue for the War on Terror, which includes information about the 6-Day War, which shows that what he says about it in this response is not in any way true, so he hasn't even watched it. All the while he was calling libertarians stupid, the dumbest people alive, and all sorts of things.
So right off the bat, he calls me a statist, which obviously shows the perspective that libertarians have. To them, there's liberty on one end, which is anarchy, and on the other hand, at the other end of the spectrum, there's statism.
That's a true dichotomy, Rucka. Liberty means non-aggression. If you abide by the non-aggression principle in all things, you're a libertarian, or anarcho-capitalist, or voluntarist, or whatever label you want to put on it. But if there's anything, even one case, where you want to initiate force against an innocent party, you are a statist, because by definition, you're calling for a state to be formed, because the state is the means by which you get the perceived legitimacy to initiate force. We'll skip all the prat, like how anarchy immediately becomes dictatorship and all that, because so many libertarians have debunked that for so long it's completely embarrassing that he'd even bring it up. Like I said, he has the research skills of a squashed pickle. So let's just look at the bits during this 25-minute hate-filled rant of his where he actually talks about Palestine.
So he's talking about the Arab-Israeli conflict. He's saying, can't you be neutral or just criticize both sides? Well, to be neutral on the Arab-Israeli conflict is to implicitly draw a moral equivalency between them.
See? What did I say? He just confirmed the small-mindedness I was talking about in my first video.
When it is clearly and overwhelmingly a conflict between a basically civilized country versus barbarians.
Yeah, no bigotry there.
And to be neutral on that is to sanction the Palestinians.
This mindset is just amazing to me. By not taking a side, you're taking a side. I'm starting to wonder how he even has enough smarts to operate his audio equipment.
And why would you want to be neutral if you're so anti-statist? Wouldn't you look at the Palestinians, at the way they govern themselves?
But they don't govern themselves! They're not allowed to govern themselves! That's the problem! Palestine is not recognized as its own country!
The leadership of the Palestinians, both in the West Bank as well as in Gaza, the leadership can take away anybody's land at any time, can kill anyone at any time.
I have no idea what point he's trying to make, considering that the leadership in these areas is Israel! Gaza and the West Bank have been occupied by Israel since the 6-Day War. That's over 50 years! And I'll remind you that the original deal that created Israel in 1947 was that there would be a partition and that Palestine would be a state alongside Israel with shared access to Jerusalem. It took less than 2 years for that deal to go south, and Palestine only had the Gaza Strip until 1967. So he doesn't even understand who the governing authorities are there.
I have nothing but contempt for the Palestinians. If you're judging Israel by a rational standard, which you should, as you should judge every country today, by that standard, the Palestinians are astronomically worse.
Which Palestinians? He keeps saying this over and over again, lumping all Palestinians into one collective. I'm gonna cut things short by skipping to the one part that makes it clear where his thinking has gone wrong. Everything else he says comes from this particular collectivist fallacy that I'm about to demonstrate.
That might be what the PR factions here in the West say on behalf of the Palestinians, but if you actually listen to what's being said on the ground. There's a lot of Allahu Akbar. There's a lot of death to Israel, death to the Jews, death to the Zionists, and wipe out Israel. This is said very openly and clearly.
And he goes on and on about this, but this is the idea. These openly stated reasons. But who openly stated them? It's not some Palestine that doesn't really exist. It's Hamas, a terrorist group which has been basically like a criminal mob claiming the Gaza Strip as their territory. They're an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood and an enemy of the PLO, which was trying to establish a legitimate and independent state of Palestine. Not that I'm saying the PLO's all that great either, but they're not what we're talking about here. It's Hamas who is doing the suicide bombings and everything else he mentions. And this puts all of his other comments into perspective. He's looking at Hamas and pretending they represent all Palestinians, the collectivist fallacy in action. If he'd open his mind to the concept of blowback, he'd understand the difference between Hamas's propaganda and what they're actually doing. They claim they're responding to the violence of Israel. In reality, they're provoking it, attacking Israel from various places in Palestine to make it look like that part of Palestine is attacking them. So when they retaliate, it looks to the Palestinians like an unprovoked attack. In fact, several times it hasn't been Israel attacking at all, but false flags from Hamas, actually attacking Palestinians directly, so Israel will be blamed. Now, I ask you, is a group that is trying to get Palestinians killed a group that can be said to be speaking on their behalf or representing what they believe? In fact, if you think about it for 2 seconds, which Rucka clearly hasn't done, you'll see that it must be the case that Palestinians largely don't agree with Hamas. Otherwise, there'd be no reason to provoke attacks against them to convince them that Israel is bad. And that's all you need to show how ridiculous the rest of his video is. I'll let you watch the rest of it yourself and see just how hilariously unself-aware he is, blatantly projecting his failings onto me. But for those of you who are disappointed that I didn't cover more of it, and you want to see more of me taking down the Rucka Sucka, stay tuned, because the next video will cover his laughably idiotic statements about gun control. See you then! Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and keep these videos coming by donating, becoming a subscriber and getting special benefits, or even for free with airtime. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.